Well, it's nice to see everybody. Thanks very much for coming and in some cases getting out of City Hall and your offices. I want to begin, as I always do, just by acknowledging that we're on Treaty 1 land in the traditional homeland of the Métis. And today I want to speak to you about a matter very, very close to my heart. Today I want to speak to you about my vision of Winnipeg as an international leader for human rights. As many of you will recall, shortly after being elected Winnipeg's 43rd mayor, the city we love was referred to as Canada's most racist city. And I still remember that day quite vividly. It was a painful moment for Winnipeg. It was a painful moment for me as a newly elected mayor. But most of all, because it underscored we don't just have a dark history. For far too many in our community, the president was dark as well. So on that day, we had to make a choice. On that day, as a community, we had to choose between dismissing that characterization or acknowledging that, of course, racism exists in our community as it does in communities across our nation. And I have to say, I got a lot of advice that day, not the least of which was to be careful about owning the racism issue. And if I did, I would become the go-to person whenever racism reared its ugly head. On that day, in the end, I believe we had to be courageous and we had to be bold. So we came together when we could have finger pointed, we could have blamed, or found excuses. On that day, we ended up choosing unity over division. And we came together when we could have found distractions or diversions. And we came together to embrace people and diversity and to find ways to better deliver dignity and opportunity for everyone in our community. What became evident during that time was the depth of caring across our city and the incredible sense of community that we have. The determination Winnipeggers have to make our city work at every level, friend to friend, family to family, across neighborhoods, businesses, and community organizations. It was really wonderful. And it's within that context, it's within that experience that I feel Winnipeg can and will be an international leader for human rights. So fixing pipes and potholes are issues that are important for building a city growing towards a population of 1 million people strong. Announcements that I've made over the last week have underscored that I remained committed to addressing these issues. But so too is the need to have a vision for the city that reflects its potential and pride. While other candidates choose to degrade and divide our city in their bid to lead it, I'm committing today to do the opposite. Our city already has very distinct human rights assets and infrastructure that I believe can make Winnipeg an international leader in the promotion, protection, education, as well as policy creation for human rights. And I'm committing today to promote its potential to be an international leader in these areas. I firmly believe in our city. And I firmly believe in our ability to lead in a spirit of honesty, to push with urgency and humility, and in doing so, underscore a commitment and a vision that will help mend some of the profound hurts and injustices of past generations with the hope of a future more attuned to human rights, dignity, and inclusion. In short, I believe we have the ability to inspire the world by simply being who we are as Winnipeggers. The experience of hosting the One Summit in 2015 underscored how readily apparent it was that Winnipeg was well positioned as a city to cultivate new ideas, facilitate discussion, as well as increase the tempo and the urgency with which we collectively work to become a more inclusive society locally, nationally, and internationally. I want to build on these efforts undertaken over the last 4 years by working closely with Winnipeg's many human rights organizations to align, to consolidate, to leverage the city's existing and ongoing efforts in promoting Winnipeg as a destination for human rights education, promotion, and policy creation. As we grow to a population of 1 million people strong, we need to ensure that we don't leave anyone behind. After all, a Winnipegger is a Winnipegger is a Winnipegger, regardless of whether your family has lived here for a year or over 1,000 years. And we can achieve this through the greater promotion and protection of human rights here at home, as well as encouraging change nationally and internationally. In addition to promoting Winnipeg as a human rights leader, I'm also committing to two other key policy initiatives. Firstly, I'm committing to create a Human Rights Committee of Council to increasingly focus and prioritize the city's work on human rights. This committee would consolidate all of the important work currently undertaken by the Citizens Equity Committee, the Access Advisory Committee, and the Mayor's Age-Friendly Seniors Advisory Committee into one committee focused on human rights, diversity, equity, peace, and inclusion. Secondly, I'm committing to the creation of a newcomer welcome and inclusion policy for the City of Winnipeg. More than 8 out of 10 immigrants admitted to Canada and Manitoba through the provincial nominee program call Winnipeg their home. Currently, Winnipeg is home to more than 176,000 newcomers from around the world. And yet, as a city, we have no formal policy structure to guide our efforts in helping individuals and families make Winnipeg their home. So it's time we get this done. This policy would serve as a blueprint for enhancing in the lives of newcomers in Winnipeg by identifying ways in which the city could better meet their distinct needs by working towards barrier-free access to city services and examining ways to enhance education and training on human rights and inclusion policies for city staff. Promoting, building, and aligning Winnipeg as an international leader for human rights parallels and supports the significant work and progress made through the city's journey of reconciliation. The city's journey of reconciliation and the creation of the city's first Indigenous Accord demonstrate what can be achieved when communities come together on a human and individual level to share, to learn, to grow, and to commit to reconciliation and commit to change. Senator Murray Sinclair said, "We must endeavor to become a society that champions human rights, truth, and tolerance, not by avoiding the dark history, but rather by confronting it." As we look around the world today, we need to continue to see attacks on human rights and the many ideals that we see. As we look around the world today, we continue to see attacks on human rights and many of the ideals we hold dear. Our nation was founded on the commitment to certain values and principles like the rule of law, human rights, peace, and democracy. While much of our city structure reflects that commitment intrinsically, we know we can better meet Senator Sinclair's call to action locally, and in doing so, I believe Winnipeg can become a beacon to the world of what it means to be a city that's a human rights leader. With those remarks, I'm more than happy to take your questions. Thank you. Merci and miigwech.